Hey Reefers, it's Cooper from Cascade Aquatics. Today we're going to be talking about doing a top-off on our saltwater fish tank. I don't have one of those fancy ATO or auto top-off systems that a lot of people have, so if you don't have one of those, this video will be perfect to show you the best way that I found to do this type of thing. Now keep in mind to check your salinity before you do this. It is very important that you're adding salt if you need to. If your salinity dips below 1.023, it's very important that you add salt. You don't want your salinity, unless it's a brackish tank of course, to dip below 1.023. Now if your salinity is higher than 1.025, it's time to do a water change, take some of that water out, and add some lesser salinity water to your tank. Now if you're just checking your salinity and it's right where you want it, remember that as salt water evaporates, the salt stays in the water, but the water evaporates from the tank, so there's really no need to add any salt. Just check my salinity, it's right at 1.024% gravity, specific gravity I should say, so it's good to go. I'm not going to add any salt to my water. I'm going to show you the equipment we're going to use today for this video, and then we're going to jump right into filling up the tank. Here's the gear we're going to be using for today's video. Take a look at this bucket right here. I have it filled with our tubing and pond pump. This is what's going to get the water from the bucket to our tank. Always have towels around just in case you do have a leak somewhere, whether it be out of the bucket, out of your tubing, out of your pond pump, out of your tank, whatever. Have a towel with you just in case. I have water dechlorinizer here. I use Seachem Prime. You can use whatever product you feel comfortable using, whatever you've used in the past. I do highly recommend Seachem Prime. It's the best on the market for a reason. Then I have this mixed saltwater bucket. Now obviously I mentioned we're not going to be putting any salt in this water today, but I do have this bucket that is specifically for holding water for this fish tank. Now one thing that is not in this image right here is my RODI system. RODI water is very important to saltwater fish tanks. It takes a lot of the stuff that's unhealthy for the fish out of the water and filterizes it in a nice filtration system. So make sure you have your RODI system ready to go. I don't have mine here because everybody's RODI system is a little bit different, and watching me set mine up isn't really going to help anything. So I will link my RODI system in the description below. You can look at it and get that one if you want. There's also tons on the market for cheaper or more expensive than mine. So make sure you have your RODI system and all this stuff ready to go. I will link all of it down in the description below. I just want to re-emphasize how important Seachem Prime is to this process. This will kill all the chlorine and all the nasties that are in this water that we're going to put in, even after it's been through our RODI system. So just make sure that you're adding the Seachem Prime by following the directions on the back of the bottle. I'm using 5-gallon buckets for reference. So the pond pump I'm using is linked down below in the description, but as you can see, this tubing doesn't exactly fit quite well in there. It slides in and out quite a bit. I don't want that to happen because the force of the water will actually blow it out. So I'm going to take this electrical tape and I'm going to wrap it around this junction just to make sure that tubing stays in the pond pump. If that doesn't happen and the pond pump throws that tubing out, we're going to have a geyser of water squirting out of our bucket and it's going to go all over my kitchen, and I don't want that. Just wrap it around, tear that tape off, make sure it's nice and secure. There you go. Now your pond pump isn't going anywhere. Now that our pond pump is ready, I dropped it into the bucket with the tubing attached to the output nozzle. Don't plug it in quite yet, not until I've ran the tubing through the kitchen, past the refrigerator here, through the laundry room. My tank's a bit of a ways away. Oh, hi, Cat. Cat's playing with the tubing like always. I ran it up and over into the tank. Run that tubing through the lid and let it hang out above the water line. Why above the water line, you ask? We'll explain that a little bit later, but now we're ready to fill it up. Now comes the fun part. Make sure the pond pump is covered with water, RODI water I might add, treated with Seachem Prime, and go ahead and plug in that pond pump. Once it's plugged in, water will start flowing through the tube. Here I go, there's the cat again, moving pretty quick here, and you flow, make sure the water is flowing through the tube. And as you're walking past, make sure there are no kinks in the tubing. That will ruin your day and make it take forever. So just make sure that there's no kinks in that tubing, and here we go. We're starting to fill up the tank. Here's what you've been waiting to see. Alright, here we are. As you can see, it's filling up rather quickly. The fish are swimming around having a great old time with it, so you know that that is a good sign. Take a look at this tubing up here in just a second. All these fish, oh man, I love these fish so much. So this tubing right now is below the water line. I'm going to explain to you in just a second why it is so important that once you turn that pond pump off, to have it above the water line. So when you have this tubing and it is below the water line and you unplug it, it's actually going to create what's called a reverse siphon. If you're new to the hobby, what a reverse siphon is, it is a active suction. So as soon as you stop pumping water through that tube, that tube's going to start sucking water back out of your fish tank and into your bucket. So before you unplug your pond pump, I definitely recommend making sure that tubing is above your water line. One of the biggest mistakes I see people making after they do a top off like this is not checking their parameters. I have an Apex system, so it makes it a little easier for me. I have an instant temperature read and an instant pH reading, so I always see that, and I also see my conductivity or salinity. I do have that conductivity probe in there with the PM2 module. However, they have been known to give some funky readings every once in a while, so I always try to double check it with my normal classic refractometer, and I suggest you do the same. If you have a hydrometer and a refractometer, use those as well as your Apex system if you have one, or any other electronic salinity calculator. That way you just have a double check, because the salinity in your fish tank, if it changes too much, it can really harm your fish, especially if it's a fast change. So we don't want to see that. Also, kind of observe your fish's behavior. These guys will be the first to tell you if anything's wrong with your tank, even before that Apex system that I have. There's our mandarin with our coral-banded shrimp. They're looking really good. That's normal for a mandarin to be hiding like that. There's the clownfish and the royal grandma. So everyone seems to be having a blast in there still. I don't see any signs right now of anything wrong with this tank or the water quality. So just make sure you're checking these parameters, whether it be with your Apex or a manual way that you have it done. Just make sure you're checking them, and that just kind of completes the process, makes it a little bit better for everybody involved. One other thing that I forgot to talk about earlier, when you're ready to take that tube out, make sure you take it out on the tank side. Otherwise, you're going to have a mess in your tank. It's not going to be fun. So take the tube out on your tank side, hold it above your head, and keep that tube above your head as you walk back and gather the tube and wrap it up. This will allow all of that water to drain through the pond pump back into the bucket. What you do with that water, once it's been drained into the bucket, you remove your pond pump, let it dry out, and just dump the excess water into your tank. Your pond pump most definitely will not be able to get all of the water out of that bucket if you have the same pond pump as me, and that's just normal. Pond pumps aren't designed to suck water out of buckets. So make sure you're not running that pond pump dry, and once it starts sucking bubbles, turn it off, unplug it, and drain the tube starting from the tank side into the bucket with that pond pump. You'll be much happier that way. Alright reefers, that's going to do it for this episode. Now you know how to do a top off on your saltwater fish tank the easy way, or the best way that I found anyway. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up down below as well. Hit that subscribe button and the little bell so you know whenever we're taking another reef adventure. Happy reefing. We'll see you next time.